commercial and industrial tend to pay a higher percentage of the taxes than residential. So that was a comment I wanted to make, just that I tend to see people focus on a percentage and they think that their taxes are going to go up by that amount, and that's not accurate.
And that's only for our little piece of the pie in the taxes. You've also got the county and the school.
Yeah, there are other components that make up the total tax. One component is the city, but you also have the county, school, and then they have some other items in there too that make up a smaller portion of the overall tax.
Ron?
Yes, the Environmental Committee had met last week, as Councilmember Brick noted, and they did recommend to keep the $4,300 for the AIS inspections, just noting that they feel the lake is an invaluable asset to the community and it really needs to be protected.
The AIS inspection is the aquatic and invasive species. Basically, it's the person out on Veterans Park monitoring the boats. You know.
And currently that is not in the budget.
So if that were to be included, then the amount would go from 133.8 to 138.1.
138, 151, yeah.
Look at me doing math on a Monday night.
I guess one other thing to keep in mind is that it looks like there's going to be a request for a referendum for the school levy to be increased. So that's another issue that we have to look at down the road. It's just not so much the city, it's the schools that are looking at something, and the county for some reason wants a big new beautiful jail. So it's something we got to look at down the road.
Yeah.
One thing that I think everyone on Budget and Finance agreed we did not want to do is to go into 2022 with an unbalanced budget. I think the overarching concern, Neil, and correct me if I'm wrong here.
It's not a good idea to deplete our reserves. And we've done too much that the last 3-4 years.
Yeah, I think based on the audit findings, we're sort of on the precipice of if we deplete our reserves any further, it could start affecting our credit rating when we go to bond in the future.
It will affect it.
It will, yeah. So we need to come in now with at least a balanced budget, so that next year we can appropriately plan and start putting things away again. Which brings me to Budget and Finance met 2 weeks ago where we made some even more drastic cuts, and I think we discussed then coming in around 112,000 instead of the 133. And having that as a budget number, but actually levying higher than that so that we could replenish our reserves somewhat. The thought process behind that being that way in the future we can do greater increases to the capital improvement funds, get the departments back where they need to be without having to increase the levy by such a dramatic percentage. Unfortunately, doing it that way meant completely eliminating that 5th officer position, not bringing it just to a part-time. At our second meeting, we decided to move forward with part-time. That's something that was also discussed. I know the chief has significant concerns about our ability to maintain a part-time officer or even acquire one in the first place. It's a no-win scenario.
Well, Paul and I were discussing budget as well, and I think, and maybe Ron, you can explain this a bit further to us, but one line item that we looked at was the streets and
Steel coating,
yeah.
Well, so
crack sealing, yeah.
there's the streets and crack sealing, and then there's the street capital improvement fund. Or
This was the 83,000 something number, and
Yeah.
Paul had questions on that, on what comprises that number.
right. So there's I forget the actual names, and hopefully Belinda can provide them. But the one which is 83,000 and change,
That one.
there's a transfer to it. That one is actually all of the costs that we have for maintaining the various streets throughout every year for seal coating, crack filling, things like that.
Yeah.
The other one is sort of a holding position right now because we know that we're eventually going to need to bond out for the downtown project. And once we get that bond, it's going to cost us at least $100,000 per year just to pay the bond servicing. So if we can start budgeting now, starting at 50,000, 60 next year, 75 progressively, then by the time we get that bond, we're not going to have to increase the budget any further just to get that payment included in the budget. Otherwise, we'd be looking at a levy increase of about 150, I'm just spitballing numbers, just for the bond payment. So this is informational right now to ask any questions.
I do have a comment on the AIS donation. I think, I'm not against the 4,300, but we're also being taxed on our property at the lake in their newly approved, taxation. I think it's a little better than $600. You had the figure one time.
I do, it's 400.
Oh, okay.
Something, I think, a year.
Well, I recommend subtracting that from the 43, so that our total stays at 43. Instead of an additional expense we didn't budget for and got passed, and because we have a park, we are taxed.
Does anyone know how much the Cronus Lake Association donates?
Oh, thousands, thousands.
Is it over 4,300?
Oh, yeah.
Yes,
We're one of the lowest.
It's like 12,000 or
we have
15.
those numbers probably from last week, but
And the township donates more than 43.
Yeah.
Township is
It's a lot.
We're lower
I
than
thought
that.
that too, Ron, somewhere in the sixes.
We're on the lower end of the,
Okay,
Yeah. The Lake Association, so Stearns County is the highest at just shy of 36,000. The Lake Association is 15,600. Rice Lake Association, 8,000. The township is 6,000.
okay.
The township isn't significantly higher than we are, but they are a little bit higher.
I think, wasn't the whole inspection program like 80,000?
Yep, 81,900.
For all
And then I thought I pulled up the fire statements for the property out there, and I didn't see any additional charges on there. So
Next year.
Oh,
I thought I looked at next year's
Okay.
statement, but maybe I was wrong.
well, if it's next year's, then we'll discuss that maybe. I guess I still maintain it should be part of the,
well, this is next year's budget, so it would affect.
Okay.
this. Yeah, you're right there.
well, then 43, counting the 500 or whatever we have to pay in the township wasn't paying half of that, were they? I mean, we have agreements on certain.
Right.
Okay.
So I think this is for informational tonight. If anyone has questions, we can certainly discuss it further. But otherwise, take some time to look through the full budget. And we will have a more in-depth discussion at our next meeting on the 23rd. We need to certify our initial preliminary amount by
September.
September 30th. Okay. So if we can do it in August, we'll be way ahead of things, but otherwise we'll certify in September.
Do you want me to add the AIS back in or leave it alone for now?
I think adding it back in would be helpful. And just see where that
And then we
goes.
can just always change the amount.
Yep.
I'll go through it like I always do with a fine tooth comb.
All right, so then going on to the Employee Appreciation Picnic on page 4. Every year, the city has done an Employee Appreciation Luncheon where we usually just get together for an hour or so. Last year, we couldn't do it for COVID reasons. And then just in talking to the chief at the budget meeting and then some other city staff, we realized everyone's been through a lot, as we all have in the last 18 months. And I thought that we should probably do something a little more than just a 1-hour box lunch. And I threw out the idea of maybe we get together out at the lake and bring some yard games or something like that, just spend the afternoon, do something more meaningful. I think everyone here at City Hall and on the city payroll has been working their butts off for the last 1.5 years, and they deserve to be appreciated for that. There's my politically incorrect way of saying thank you to everyone too. I took a look at the dates that are on here if we wanted to move forward. I can do it the 24th, the 13th, the 15th, or the 16th.
These are working days,
They are working days. Yep, so the thought is
close City Hall for the afternoon,
go to City Hall for the afternoon
and the liquor store? No,
Bill's freaking out.
no, you,
Well, he's gotta be able to make runs back and forth. I can do the 24th.
I have to look at my calendar.
I guess I'd prefer September.
Yeah.
You got state fair, if that's going on, you got
Oh, that's
school starting up,
Yeah.
people taking their vacations before the kids go back, so I'd prefer September.
First day of school is the 8th.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to make that then.
Yeah, 8th and 9th are no good for me. 13, 15, and 16 are the days I can do it.
Do we have console 16th? No.
probably just
No.
not the 8th or 9th.
I like the 16th.
Otherwise,
I'm looking at my calendar.
Paul, what's going on
16th is
in
a
September?
Thursday.
No, it's a Monday.
I'll be driving the school bus then. 'Cause I do 3 routes during the day, morning, noon, and school.
okay.
I guess you don't get to eat.
Oh, don't count me out.
You can still drive
Just missed one
by.
of the routes.
You know what, I can still do a box lunch at noon and at 4:30.
You drive by still.
I can drive by.
I don't have my calendar up in front of me. I looked
The
at it.
13th of September is a Monday, the 14th is a Tuesday, 15th is a Wednesday, the 16th is a Thursday.
And that Friday, the 17th, would not work?
No.
Okay.
Fridays, I'm out of town by 3.
Guess you don't get to eat.
Oh, I'll plan. You can tell I don't miss too many.
He did.
He deserved it.
According to what Belinda had on the calendar, if you wanted to go back into August, the 23rd and 24th were available. I don't know what Connor and Paul have. It's prior to State Fair, except State Fair, State Fair doesn't start till the
Oh.
26th.
No, August is just busy.
Okay.
Unless you'd rather have it, I don't know.
I think the
It's
16th.
good to get the feeling what the employees think too, you know, in a way.
Well, Thursdays aren't necessarily good for closing City Hall, is it? Or no, we don't.
They're not
have
any busier on
testing.
Thursdays because testing isn't.
Yeah, we are doing testing anymore.
And that's in the middle of the month, so that week of the 13th probably works the best. And we did look at the time off calendar, trying to pick days that the vast majority of the staff.
Is around.
Also going into September, if we announce it tomorrow at the staff meeting, then everybody can plan that if they want to attend, they probably should not take that day off. Okay.
So we're going for the 13th?
16th, isn't it?
6th?
16th is a Thursday.
Sure.
Okay. Is that a motion, Neil?
Yes, the 16th would be the recommended day for appreciation picnic from noon to 4:30 at Vets Park.
And to close City Hall during that time?
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Sure.
Okay. So we have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Soini, to host an employee appreciation picnic September 16th from noon to 4:30 at Veterans Park, and to close City Hall during that time. Any further discussion on that? All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? None? That carries. Okay, part of the, going on to the sale of the canine squad, part of the budget recommendations, looking through everything, and the capital improvement transfers was a recommendation not to move forward with the continued funding of the canine program. We had previously discussed holding off to see who we might hire to fill the role. We did have one applicant who had the potential to bring with them a canine. That person is not going to work out for the position. So based on that, it's Budget and Finance's recommendation that the canine program no longer be funded and that the squad be sold for whatever Budget and Finance can recommend. I don't know, Chief, if you want to add anything more to that? We talked about hopefully getting a price around 40,000+.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I talked with Tarek since that meeting, and I think kind of the thought is based on the city's current budget constraints and, you know, what it's gonna take. You know, we had the one potential candidate, but, you know, that individual took a job with another agency. So really to start over, especially in the, you know, when we're cutting a staff position down to part-time with the PD, just doesn't make any sense to spend that money. And I think at this point, it's probably best to just discontinue the program in general, which would mean selling the squad car and what equipment we do have that's left over. And I would ask that the squad and the boxes and some of that other equipment, that we'd be allowed to dispose of it. My goal and my thought is to post on the with the Chiefs Association, as well as hopefully with the Sheriff's Association, that we have a squad available, maybe doing a sealed bid back to the city through either the end of this month, if not mid-September, with a reserve starting at $40,000. I think we should be able to get more than that, but you know, at least if we set the reserve at 40, we know that that would be the minimum we're gonna get, and it kind of limits our administrative costs with selling it by some other means.
And a sealed bid in that manner would be appropriate for something of this value?
I mean, it'd be a lot, but it's certainly, it's more than what would be required, so I think it would be fine.
Chief, what kind of money do we have tied up in the vehicle? Do you remember?
We probably have, you know, there was probably 60 when it's all said and done. That would be, we had $40,000 in the vehicle. We put another 10 in for new equipment and stuff like that. And then we added camera system and radar system. But that was it's a used system, so the retail value of that brand new is about 10 between those two items. So it's about $60,000.
And those are going with the vehicle?
Yes.
So,
They are some of our older stuff, so it's still good workable equipment.
so you definitely should bring 40, if not more. And the seal thing, maybe we'll have, we can get 50, all the better.
I kind of think with a sealed bid, rather than doing like an online auction, you know, our administrative costs are in-house, whatever we advertise, that sort of thing. People knowing that 40 is the minimum, I got to imagine there's going to be agencies that would be potentially over 50 if we get bids for it, and we should. We've had some interest from at least 2 agencies within Stearns County that have expressed some interest, so.
Sounds like a plan.
And then would you list the boxes and everything with it, or would they be separate items?
I don't even know how I'm gonna get rid of those. I reached out to Cold Spring. I mean, I think we have $1,200 in those is all we have. The material costs, last year's school, kids built those boxes. I don't believe Cold Spring has boxes for their canines for training, so I had reached out to them to see if they would potentially be interested in purchasing them, just doing a direct sell, kind of like we did, just because they are a unique item. Avon already has boxes, so, you know, if I could find another canine unit somewhere around the area that has them, I'd probably look to just do a direct sale versus a sealed bid, just because it's a minimal cost, and I know going government entity to, government entity, we should be able to do that.
I guess I'll make the motion to proceed with the sale of the canine squad and boxes.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Brick, to move forward with the sale of the canine squad and boxes. Did you want us to set an end date on that sale? My thought is that a mid-September date probably works if you're gonna have, we're gonna have agencies spending something like that, probably gonna have to go to their own council before getting approval, so.
Yeah, I don't want to set it too short, but I don't want to set it too long. I think a mid-September is probably good. The only thing I would ask is, can you throw any additional canine stuff? I think there's like a bite sleeve and some stuff like that that we have.
Whatever you have, get rid of and get what you can.
So your motion is to authorize the sale of all.
The sale of canine, period.
Okay. Councilman
Proceeds to go
Brick?
capital improvement.
So,
The squad and the equipment.
yes.
Yeah, but I think you want to add in a motion that, the minimum bid is 40,000.
Right.
Yeah,
No.
starting at 40,000.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we withdraw the bid and restate it with everything all at once? Can we do that?
It's a lot.
I know.
The motion is to authorize selling any of the canine equipment, including the squad, with a minimum bid of 40,000. That includes the houses, anything canine.
And the minimum bid would be just for the squad.
Squad. The rest is do what you can.
Okay. Yep.
Hard to put a number on that, pretty definite.
Belinda asked, and I was wondering the same thing, would the, funds then go into the police capital improvement, I assume, or?
That's where I would see them going.
That would be,
Yep, that's where the money came from. So,
Yeah.
okay. So we have a motion by Hertzberg, seconded by Thielen, for the sale of the canine squad and any associated equipment by sealed bid with a minimum bid of $40,000 for the canine squad and any funds being deposited into the police capital improvement fund. Yes? Okay. Any further discussion on that? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? None. That carries. Okay. On to the old business, the joint trail board amendment. This is in our original packet, page 13. This is something we discussed at our last meeting, informational only then. Here we'd be looking for a motion to approve the amendment.
I'll move to approve the ordinance number 22, third series, amending the Joint Trails Board.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Brick, seconded by Sony, to approve ordinance number 22, third series, amending the joint trails board. Any discussion on that? None, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. That carries. Okay. The EDAP board membership, then found on page 15 of the original packet, again, presented for informational before, on for approval tonight. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve ordinance number 24, third series, amending the Economic Development Board.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sony, seconded by Hertzberg, to approve ordinance number 24, third series, amending the Economic Development Board. Any further discussion on that? Hearing and seeing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None? That carries. Hiring of a part-time liquor store clerk. Policies and procedures did interview.
This one was bypassed by the policies and procedures, right?
It was, yeah.
Okay.
I'm getting my facts mixed up in my head. It's been a long Monday.
She was just here.
Yes.
Okay.
If we could hire Donna Potter, that would be outstanding. So she's actually started working for us, doing a great job already, so.
Did the background check?
Background check was
Of
good.
course, it was pending background check.
Yeah, which was good.
I'll make the motion to hire Donna Potter as a part-time liquor store clerk effective immediately for up to 32 hours per week at grade 1, step 1, $14.35 an hour for the 2021 union wage scale.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Sunny, seconded by Thielen. Councilwoman Brooks indicated she will be abstaining. The motion is to hire Donna Potter as a part-time liquor store clerk effective immediately for up to 32 hours per week at a grade 1, step 1 per the 2021 union wage scale. Any further discussion on that? None. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. That carries.
Thank you.
Going on then, back to our update. Police and Fire Oversight Board on page 6. Chief or Tarek, I don't know if one of you wants to talk about this.
I'll say a few words. We had initially had the idea of putting together a police and fire oversight board, primarily as a way for, I guess, the two departments not only to work together, but also to have a better communication with the community. We sat down and put together some ideas on this, and we spoke with Bill Spooner on this as well. And we also were contemplating whether or not we should add this as a forum where they could hear out any issues or complaints that they have. And I guess subsequently, when we were talking about it with our labor attorney, they kind of were discouraging against going this route as a complaint board because there are other legal issues going on with that right now that's not recommended. So in light of that, we either form this board as it is with some modification, or we can revert back to safety board. And of course, the safety board, the main issue we had with that was the board members. It was hard to get a quorum because they weren't always in attendance. So if we were to do that, we would also need to, I guess, select some new board members that would be attending these meetings.
I think we've received a number of interested people for the oversight board. I imagine they'd be interested in serving on a continued safety board. I did reach out to the league for some information on what other communities are doing. Unfortunately, everybody at the league is on vacation like everybody else at the moment. So we were going to talk late last week. That didn't happen. I haven't heard back yet. I think she was coming back today, so I'm hoping she'll get back to me tomorrow or Wednesday. But my whole understanding of this oversight board was that one of the things it would do is serve as a conduit to dispel any rumors that may have come up about actions that either department was taking and what was going on. And I think that function of dispelling rumors inherently means that it's serving as a complaint board. And if it can't do that, then I'm not sure what the point in creating a whole new board is. I guess I would be in support then of just reworking the public safety committee to actually function as a committee.
Yeah.
And then finding some other manner of addressing complaints that does meet the data privacy concerns.
I have to disagree with that.
Okay?
All right? If we go back to the safety board, it's still going to be the same name, and it's going to carry on that idea of attendance is not mandatory. And it's going to, I think it's just going to follow the same path that we're trying to get rid of. If we were to go with the police and oversight board, but not having a complaint board to air things out and dispel rumors and stuff, but one where the police department and the fire department can at least get together every so often and trade ideas and move forward in an upwards direction instead of one backwards where we're trying to get rid of the complaints. I just think a new board, a new name, and a new outlook would probably carry farther than it would be than firing up the old safety board.
So it looks as though many communities in Minnesota and nationally have advisory boards rather than oversight boards. and it looks like Bemidji just recently, like within the past week, maybe. And it says here that it establishes channels of communication between the community, and they'll be able to review police-related incidents and provide feedback. However, according to Minnesota statutes, the board will not receive complaints initiated against police personnel and have no authority to investigate or participate in personnel matters. So is that usually
Well,
what's common?
That was my concern, was that I didn't want to get the board in the position of investigating.
Yeah, I
You know,
understand that.
I mean, and it's a fine line if you're, you know, if you're listening to citizens who are saying that this happened and you can't investigate, you know, well then, what do you do? You know, I mean, I guess, you know,
Sure.
I mean, I guess if you have the police chief there and he simply says that's not true, you know, but I mean, I guess that addresses the complaint, but I don't know how satisfactory the citizen will find it to be, but,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you could have that interaction with the public, I
Just refer
suppose,
them
where the
to
police
proper
department
channels.
could say, well, that's not true, or this part of it's true and here's the reason why. You know, maybe you could have that limited discussion, but the board wouldn't be investigating complaints. And that, I mean, so it's a fine line. I mean, you don't, but I think you could have some of that where there'd be give and take with the public and the police department, but you have to be careful, I think.
Sure. Well,
That's the hard part.
it just seems that advisory boards seem pretty common, so I guess I would just like a little more time to investigate maybe how they make it work, because it seems to be happening. If that,
Yeah, I
anybody
mean,
else has thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree.
I think it definitely happens. I think some communities go away from it because they try it and then they find that to be a hard line to walk.
Sure.
So they experiment with it and then they decide it's not useful.
Mhm.
But I think that's the issue, is how do you do that? But I think it could work, you know, it gives a forum for there to be communication, but you just have to kind of stay in your lane, I guess. It's one of those things where you're.
Good lesson for anybody.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's just, you know, you can only go so far.
Of course.
And you can't necessarily resolve everything at that level.
No.
But it gives a forum where at least things could be aired a little bit.
Yeah, and I just like what it talks about with the open channels with the community, so I would
No,
like
that's-
to investigate it
yeah.
further.
I mean, that's clearly the idea. I think that was
Yeah.
one of the major functions of this board, was to open channels of communication between the council, the police and fire department, the fire department and the police department and the public and all the entities. And that all is good, you know.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I can see how that's tricky legally, but I think, and maybe it is something that we can look into and decide it won't work, but I would like more time to look into it before I'd feel comfortable voting one way or another.
yeah, and I don't think we have anything ready for presentation. It's just a question of where is it gonna go, is what I
Mhm.
understand.
Sure.
Trying to find, I know I did get feedback from one city.
I mean, one of the goals of this committee is for the police and fire to work together.
Yeah,
All that's,
Yeah,
a big part of this is
No, that's all
to
good.
get communication and cooperation and
Yep.
I'll agree with that 100%, because you're looking at two different industries happening here. You've got police training, you got fire training, and they more than likely will mesh more often than not. But they don't have time to sit down and discuss what's going on. They either have to act quickly because there could be, you know, one last breath or one last pulse. And if they can be on the same page with communications, I think that would be great, you know, and just moving forward with it, instead of, you know, have this be like a volleyball match or tennis match where you said this or you said that. No, I don't think we have any room for that. That's where I think the advisory board would work better, where it would not issue complaints. It'll just be, hopefully, with the technology evolving and stuff, it would be nice to have the fire department and the police department informing each other of what's new and what's happening, and here's what I can do to make your job easier. If you know, what you guys could make my job easier. Let's work together and see if we can come out as a success.
Yeah, I think all of that's right. In theory, that's how the Public Safety Committee is supposed to be working now. And it's clearly not.
Yeah.
But is the answer then to, well, we're gonna have to completely write the whole ordinance if we're going to rework membership anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we were started out with was trying to put together the functions, and, I mean, I think if we're in agreement that we're not gonna be investigating, I mean, I think we can kind of clarify the language a little bit on some of the bullet points I had under what the functions of that committee would be, and then the other thing is we're gonna disband the other one, and I think that's all doable. I mean, we can, and that's all we're gonna do is create a new board and disband one board that's not functioning as you want it to. And if there are members of that board that have been active and they want to be on this board, that's fine, but you want people that are going to be active.
Paul, what's your thoughts on this?
Well, I think when this first came up, I kind of alluded to, what I'm looking for is more of that advisory board. I think the Public Safety Committee, as it sits now, has a place within this community, because we are addressing, the general safety of the community. With this particular board, we are looking at the community relations sides of things, which is a vastly different beast, if you will. Whether it's the fire department in the city, the police department in the city, whatever it is. When I look at the complaints and stuff like that, a police commission or this type of an advisory board offers the opportunity for members of that board or even members of the community to come forward and say, hey, we have this, I'm hearing this on the street. A lot of times those, I'm hearing this on the street, never make it to us until we hear it, weeks, months down the road where it's like, well, yeah, so-and-so said this. This board gives us an opportunity to stop those rumors, to stop that stuff ahead of time. Because unfortunately, in today's world, somebody stops a car or, has an interaction with one of our citizens, and it's automatically assumed to be Painesville Police Department, whether that was a state trooper or a deputy sheriff or somebody else. A lot of times they're not paying attention to exactly who stopped them. They just know they got stopped in Painesville and they attribute it to Painesville. So we can do a lot to dispel a lot of those rumors with a board like this.
But we can't.
Is that getting too close to hearing complaints?
I mean, I think it would be inherently, because we'd have to have all of the incident data that surrounded it.
The board wouldn't need the data. I mean, we have, chiefs, we have managers for a reason. And, if somebody comes to me and says, hey, I heard your officer was sitting out in front of the Johnson's house for 5 hours last night and they were complaining about it, discussing that and saying, let me look into it and I'll let you know. That's not running into data practices issues. Giving them the data, giving them body cam video that they're not entitled to, that's where we run into problems. But simply answering questions and dispelling rumors is not anything that's going to run into any issues as far as that stuff goes.
So that's the problem that, that I was talking about is you can try to dispel rumors, but, you're gonna do it by having someone present the other side of the story. And if the members of the public who are presenting their concerns don't believe the person who's responding, it's not gonna help. I mean, that's the problem, but you at least have the opportunity to have that interaction where you hear what the rumor is and you get an opportunity to reply to it. I can't say that it's always gonna be satisfactory to the member of the public that's complaining, but at least you have an opportunity to have the discourse, and I think that's not worthless. In some instances it may satisfy the concern, in some instances it may not. But, you know, if they think they have a complaint, we have a process for that. And then, you know, if they're just not satisfied and they really think there's a complaint that they have to make, they have to follow that process, and that's not to that committee.
I guess I think that having more positive interaction between the two departments and with the public in general will do a lot to dispel any rumors without explicitly doing so.
I agree. No, what I wanted to add though was, like Bill said, if they come to this committee or the board and they say, well, I have this, and it turns out to be that they are, it's a complaint, then they go through the channels of a complaint, and there's, you know, but if it's just, well, I heard this, is that true, or this happened, what's the status of, you know, this particular incident or event that happened, that's a different situation.
Well, we have a complaint process.
Yes.
With the forms, I guess I looked at the policy agenda and saw that this afternoon. And that is the way official complaint should be handled.
Yes.
Number one, we don't look at complaints that are not signed, or somebody has to initiate the complaint. An anonymous phone call isn't worth listening to.
Yeah.
And the city learned that a long time ago. There were anonymous complaints in the 70s that got attention that never should have. And I'll gonna let that's old history.
Well, wouldn't it just be easy enough if this advisory board did hear a complaint to just say that isn't what we do, and this is what you generally need to follow?
Yeah.
A complaint should be on our formal complaint register and gone that way, if it's an official complaint.
So I don't know that some people are even aware that that's how it works, you know?
Right,
So I
yeah,
think
no,
it would
no, and that would be part of it, would be just to educate the public about how that process works, and certainly the board could do that, that's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, because again, I don't think that a board needs to explicitly dispel rumors, because I don't think you can without running into legal issues, but I just think if there's a lot more positive interaction between the two departments and with the public in general, then that'll go a long way in and of itself, which I think is kind of what we were hoping for to begin with. And I think advisory versus oversight there's a difference there, and it's one that I would personally, again, like time to look into.
Does that give you enough draft, or enough guidance to revise and bring back a draft?
Sure, you can do that.
Okay. All right. And we'll move on to the drought update.
Okay.
Relief yesterday, but not enough.
A little bit.
But
Last meeting, I think everyone recalls, we did review the drought status, and just noting that the DNR has put us into a drought warning phase and set the guidelines for us, in which they recommend that we pump less water than 150% of our January usage, which again was 576,000. So our pumping target rate would be 864,000 or less. Again, in June, we were over that. July, we actually came in at 803, so it was significantly down. And thus far in August, we are down to 790,000 gallons per day. The Environmental Committee reviewed it, and also the Public Works, and the Public Works did make a motion tonight that they do recommend extending the watering restrictions from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. through September 15th, which will give us one more month. After that, I guess the thinking is that people may want to start planting grass, and it's not as hot during the day. But they all think, yes, it's definitely a good idea to keep that in motion, at least to this point. I know we had some rains in town here, but that doesn't mean that 2 miles east of us that they did. It seemed to be very sporadic, and that's seems to be very common in a drought year. So the recommendation is to keep that in place through September 15th.
When does the current one expire?
It doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't?
So I don't think we need to do anything on this, it would just continue.
Continue on.
What's the status of the irrigation ponds? Are those holding up now?
Well, with this last rain we had, actually, quite well.
Okay.
I mean, they didn't get the amount of water that they wanted earlier, but we're trying to ration it. At this point, it's actually looking quite good.
What was the official amount that we got?
Which end of town were you on?
Yeah.
Thursday, out at the airport, there was over 2 inches, and the east end was about an inch.
Mine said 2.
2, yeah.
Ron, what's the status of the irrigation and the soybeans? That there was
The
a,
chlorides,
yeah,
we did have a meeting with the farmers and several agronomists, soil scientists. Pretty much identified, yes, it is a chlorides issue. What can we do as a city? It was discussed at the Public Works tonight. First thing we're gonna do is identify exactly where it's coming from. Is it softeners, is it from industry? We'll put a report together on that and bring it back to the council. What can the farmers do? They noted several items. One, obviously, is don't plant soybeans. Seriously, that's where they're going to. Also, there are some other nutrients, micronutrients that they can add that will neutralize it. So we're gonna try and work with them as best we can and move on.
I think one thing, the deep tillage
Yes.
was kind of discussed too.
So yeah, we don't need to do anything to extend the watering ban. There was no expiration date on that, so that would continue until revoked or otherwise amended. Is there a motion to do anything else with it? Extend, rescind, anything like that? Okay. Hearing none, then that is it. We just have one item on the informational, which is the thank you from the Historical Society for our annual donation to them. That was sent to me and I asked that it be included in here. So with that, then we will conclude our regular business meeting and we will be moving into a closed session to discuss making an offer on the real property located at 110 Spruce Street, parcel number 70.39244.0012. So with that, we are adjourned and we'll reopen in closed session. All right, I'm going to assume we're good to go. We're back in our open meeting. We just met in closed session to talk about making an offer on the real property located at 110 Spruce Street. And after some discussion about possibly making an offer to use it as either a liquor store or police station, I believe the council has all agreed that we don't want to make an offer at this time. Hearing no contradiction, we are adjourned.
We need to return this?
Yeah.